So, this moment, this divine moment, the perfect opportunity to know yourself. Every moment, so rich. Every moment, an opportunity to know yourself more deeply. To fall into the ever-widening sense of being, the being that you are in truth. And every moment is rich with possibilities to distract, rich with possibilities to follow the thoughts and identify with the thoughts. When there is an identifying and a believing in the thoughts, it will pull you away. What is really happening is the mind is being pulled into a conversation with itself. Whereas in truth, when you are resting in the being, the mind itself is resting in its essential nature. The mind itself is resting in the vastness of its own true nature. So we always want to pull the mind towards the spaciousness of awareness. We want to pull the mind towards the emptiness instead of the content. And this is really the relaxation of attention. The relaxation of attention away from the objects and the content. A relaxation into the emptiness of simply being. So where we speak of finding the source of everything, follow everything back, or the felt sense of I am, just your own presence, it brings the mind to an emptiness. And of course, a mind that is looking for things says, oh, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something. So let us point to how we bring the mind to emptiness with good reason. Because when the mind comes to emptiness, all that is here is being. The mind is resting in its own true nature, just simply being. When the attention has relaxed, in this moment, all that remains is being. So the richness of the moment, it's always full of possibility to know yourself more deeply. But of course, that knowing of yourself, the self more deeply, is not a mental happening. It's not a doing. It's about simply being here. Simply being here, resting in the heart of awareness. We could say we bring the mind to the heart of awareness. The mind drops into the heart of awareness. And awareness is aware of the whole moment as total openness. And as total openness, everything is welcome, everything is allowed. And here, as total openness, as awareness itself, there is the ability to naturally see the moment in its fullness, but not to let the attention go towards the objects. The objects are the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the story, just to be the witness of it all and allow the attention to rest in true nature, in essence nature. This is how we can receive the grace the most deeply. It's how we receive the grace of life the most deeply, by receiving the moment as the openness, by receiving the moment in its utter fullness, whatever is happening, whatever is coming forward, that somehow everything that is in your moment, in your view, is created out of your consciousness. It's a reflection. It is either a reflection of your beauty and grace, or it is a reflection of something unconscious that is attempting to surface in order to be brought home into love, into the heart that is free. The heart of awareness is freedom. There is never anything happening that is not part of this great unraveling. Whether it is illness and issues with the body, or it is relationship dynamics, whatever it is that is happening on the surface of life, it's all being created out of the intelligence of consciousness to carry you deeper into your true nature. Your true nature is that which is unaffected. Your true nature is that which is never touched. Your true nature is the essence nature of everything. So we come to know the true nature, the being, the simplicity. The way the mind wants that to look, it's never going to be how it looks, because it is not an achievement or a goal that is recognized or understood by the mind. It is just the simplicity of all you have ever been. It is just who you are, without believing in this, the layering, the superimposition of the play, right? We're habituated to believe the story, to engage with the drama, without realizing that the story on the surface of life is only here to take us deeper into true nature. It's not here to be believed in or fought with, or a game that we are intended to win. It is just here as a reflection of your own consciousness. It's a reflection. It's showing you everything that is unconscious in you, and not in a way the mind can even understand. So the way that we decode it and discover what is unconscious, how we understand the deep conditioned dynamics that are playing in the life that keep us from living this truth and knowing the love that we are, is to keep meeting the feelings. Through meeting the feelings, through meeting our resistance, through meeting that charge in the nervous system that comes when we don't want something to be this way. This is the most incredible grace, right? This is the grace of God offering itself to set free and bring into the light all that is unconscious. We could say everything that we don't want is the true guru. Everything that we resist is the true teacher. But we have to see this with total openness. Otherwise, if we let the resistance win, if we let the mental ideas of what we don't want start to control, then we are being led away from the great offering that is coming forward. The glory comes when, as openness, as awareness, we can receive everything equally. This is where we align with divine responsibility. We align with divine responsibility by, in utter openness, receiving the grace and recognizing through a surrender that somehow what is happening on the surface is being created out of my own consciousness. Something in me has created this. We do not have to understand or know how. It's not about that. That's the mind's game. The surrender says, somehow I have created this. Somehow this is an appearance of my own consciousness. What is being resisted is the appearance of something unconscious in me. And the grace is to receive it, bring gratitude for it. Gratitude might not look immediately like gratitude. It might look like just being open to receive. It might look like openness is just welcoming. It might look like just holding presence for the feelings that are happening in the nervous system, the charge in the nervous system. It might just be holding presence, the loving presence of your own nature for what is ever arising. We do not let the mind come in and be that which is giving direction. We do not allow the mind to come in and say, I know how to do this, I know what this is all about. We do not let the mind get involved at all. We just watch. We just watch and we meet the moment with utter openness. In such honesty, in such a willingness to take responsibility, even though we do not necessarily understand. We recognize that there are dynamics playing, and the dynamics that are playing are offering the grace of unraveling it all, the whole crazy show, unraveling it all into the glory, into the deep knowing of the glory that is the true nature. We have learned to try to get away from what we don't like, what we want to resist. We have learned to get away and used all sorts of techniques to numb and distract. But it is about receiving. It's exactly the opposite. It's counterintuitive to everything that the mind imagines and to what we have learned. So this is where we have to be very careful too of how even our spirituality can be another technique to get away from, right? You wouldn't imagine that, right? But to use any way to just get away from the moment is giving the deeper message to that which is trying to surface. You are not welcome. I do not want this part of me to come forward, right? So the true nature, it welcomes everything. Yes, there is a great benefit to knowing yourself, the being, and being the vast open space which is receiving it all. That is for sure. But it's not about transcending away. It's not about using that knowing as an escape, because that knowing is always here. The knowing of that is actually the knowing of everything. The knowing of your true nature is the knowing. And it's not a technique. It's not something that you escape into. The knowing of yourself is the knowing of everything. This is the process of unity, okay? The knowing of yourself is the knowing of everything. The only direct experience you have is knowing yourself, the felt sense of being. The felt sense of being here, when the mind is relaxed, when attention is relaxed, when the mind has been directed into the heart of awareness, and there's just the felt sense of being. You know the being that you are, because the knowing is the aliveness of the presence. And it is by this same knowing that you come to know everything as yourself. So whatever is arising, your only true experience of it is the knowing of it as an experience. Right? We have learned with the mind and sense perceptions to fragment and dissect the experience, to take it personally, to go into the personal. But in truth, all that is here in reality is the felt sense of knowing. There is nothing else. And this is where you collaborate. This is where you align, only with the knowing, only with the being. The knowing is an aware knowing. It's aware of the whole picture, but it only knows itself, right? We could say it's just like the screen is not affected by the pictures on the screen. Just the same, you as the knowing, as the awareness, you're not affected by the pictures on the screen of your life. If you start identifying with the pictures and you start going into the feelings and the stories and what's triggered around it and identifying with it, you'll be in the misery. You'll be in the cycle. You'll be in the illusion, let's say. You're believing in the illusion. What is the illusion? The illusion is the superimposition. It's the pictures on the screen. And if you're identified with the illusion, then you're going to be feeling the misery of the character. You're going to be feeling all that's associated with the character. But if you can rest just as the knowing, and the knowing says, all I know is the knowing of myself. All I know is the knowing of reality. All I know is the felt sense of being. All I know here now is my own presence. It's all I know as reality. And yes, I can see the picture, and yes, I can feel the feelings as the nervous system. But the knowing here knows only itself. And somehow the knowing of this self is creating this appearance to bring this knowing of the self as the heart of awareness deeper and deeper and deeper. Right? So if you go towards the picture, if you go towards the story, and that is what has been learned, that is what has been learned, is to engage and make a collaboration with the unconscious. It has been to engage in the story and to lose sight, lose the sense of your knowing in the drama, in the picture, right? You get lost in the movie image on the screen. But all the while, as the character that's lost, you're just longing to know your true nature. We know the longing because we know there's a longing for love, a longing for connection, a longing for God, for awakening, for reality, for truth, for freedom, for honesty, for the heart, right? All of these ways of interpreting the longing, it's all leading to the true sense of longing. And it's just to recognize the only thing that is being longed for is the self. It's the only thing that is longed for. Is the vast open truth of your own nature, which is heart. It is not mind. You are not longing for your mind. You are longing for heart. You are longing for your own heart, to realize your own heart, the recognition of heart, the true heart, the heart that is, can be so easy to get pulled by the feelings in the nervous system. The mind says something is needed here, but nothing is needed. It is just the ability to be the openness, to be the openness and not identify. This gives us the spaciousness to witness as awareness, see the movie for what it is, all of it, and allow the feelings, however uncomfortable they are, just to be met, just to be met by feeling your own nervous system, feeling your own resistance, let's say, feeling uncomfortable, the willingness to just feel. Feeling it is loving it. Feeling it is welcoming it. Feeling it is the gratitude that says yes to what God is offering and no to the mind that wants to distract and wants it to be different. It says no to that which wants to control. So at any time where you notice a pattern arising that's wanting to control in any way, it's just to see it. Feel the feeling that comes if you don't control, if you don't try to hold a position of a me that's right, a me that wants it to be different, a me that thinks that I know better. What happens? It might bring more feelings of lack of control, right? It's just another story. It's just more feelings. So we have to become very adept at meeting the feelings. What allows us to be adept, let's say, our adeptness is the knowing of being. Our adeptness is the true nature. We are an adept by true nature, right? We are the grace-filled one that can receive it all by true nature. But what happens is that the mind comes in and says, I can't handle this. I can't bear this. And so many of you are going to recognize this, right? How the mind says, I can't bear it. I can't do this. And the mind starts a conversation with itself. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. This is too much. I need help, right? In some way, just to recognize the mechanism. Everyone will recognize this mechanism. It's the drama of the mind. It's how the mind keeps itself alive by dramatizing its own inability to cope it dramatizes its own inability, its own brokenness. It says, I can't cope, I need help, I'm broken. And you know, that can be small or it can be big. It can be that feeling of, I so can't cope with this. I'd rather die than cope with this, right? It gets really dramatic. Gets really, really dramatic. I need help. I need to go to hospital. I need medication. I need something, right? And it's not that it's sometimes some support, some kind of holding isn't needed. It is. It's part of the process of surrender. But the drama that the mind creates, when it believes its own drama, right? It starts with a story. Oh, well, there's something wrong with me because I'm not doing it in this way, or I've got these feelings. If you get distracted by that drama, you're not truly feeling the feelings, and it's the mind that's creating the drama. Just to see this, just to see it, everyone will recognize this. Everyone. But you know, sometimes we have to actually get to the bottom of the barrel. It's like we have to meet our own feelings so deeply. We could even say we have to meet our own despair to know that even in the face of the despair and upset that the mind thinks is not possible to bear, that the infinite heart is bearing it all. There's always a part of you that is okay. There's always a part of you that is holding it all in utter openness. And that is love. That is where we are one. That is the great unraveling, right? There are so many subtleties to how this can play out. Could express this, and soon after, the mind will come back and it will come forward with a story that is exactly these dynamics we are speaking of. But the mind imagines that it's got a unique angle on it that actually is really, really, like this drama, this story really, really is not able to be fitted into how it's all working. But there's nothing outside of it. We are repeating the same information again and again and again and again. It is the mind that interprets it as being different, because the mind is fragmenting and it's desperately trying to keep itself alive. Everything that is being experienced, could say, has been experienced here. Everything has been experienced because it is the human experience. It's the human condition. We are all living out exactly the same mechanistic unfolding of the human experience. We're all living exactly the same. We are all, in truth, exactly the same. We are the being. We are the one heart. We are the gracious openness of pure awareness. We are the unconditioned love, the peace, the beauty. We are the same in that. And we are the same in the human experience, because the human experience is consciousness dancing. Let's say it's God dancing on the surface willingly. God knows what God is doing. Nothing is outside of God's knowing of God. And your knowing of reality is the same knowing, right? It's exactly the same knowing. The human experience that every being is living is exactly the same. when we come to the intelligence of consciousness, it's like we pull back out of the personal. We pull back out of sense perception that fragments and gives like a unique individual kind of perspective on it. We pull back into the intelligence of consciousness, where we can see the big picture and we can feel the dynamics in their raw mechanistic state. We recognize the mechanics of consciousness. We see how it's all working. And the more that we see how it's all working, we cannot be fooled by it. And there's a knowing that we're all living exactly the same human experience. Let's give the mind some grace. It's hard. It's challenging, right? It is. It is. But if you get stuck in that, without being the compassion for it, right? So compassion says, the true compassion that we all are the same, says, it is hard. It is hard, the human experience. It is challenging. It doesn't say, I can't do this, this is too much, right? That's the mind. That's the character. It's to be able to discern zoomed in identification, zoomed out big picture. It's hard, right? The feelings that are arising right now, they're hard. The feelings, the stress in my nervous system right now, it's hard, right? We can acknowledge what's happening. This situation that's arising in my relationship with my family, with my health, it's hard. It's hard. The character, it feels hard. The feelings feel really, really challenging. The feelings, we could say, they feel like I can't cope, right? We can allow the truth to be told. Feels like it's too much. Feels like I can't bear this. But that which is holding space can recognize it with a witnessing ability that doesn't buy in to what the mind wants, right? So there's an honoring, there's a loving presence, right? This is all within our own internal experience, the magic of the internal world, right? Because it's consciousness, right? We're not trying to push anything away. We're not in the internal world saying, oh, I need to rest in the being, I need to rest in the being, that's all phenomena, push it away, push it away. We're saying, okay, what I am in truth is the being. What I am in truth is this presence. I know that. I can confirm that. Yes, all that's appearing, it's phenomena. We can know that. And there's a charge in my nervous system that feels like it's really big and I'm really feeling a lot of stress and anxiety right now, right? Can we be so open, so wide in our sense of being, so wide in the knowing of the self that we can include everything, right? This is the process of unity. This is the process of refinement, is that we recognize that we can include everything. We're not transcending away, we're not identifying, but we're so wide and we're ever widening, we're ever deepening in the sense of being and in the knowing. We have this capacity, our adeptness, to hold as the vast open spaciousness everything that is happening, right? Let's say, just for fun, even if what we're holding is a sense of ecstatic, blissful rapture that's rocking your system, we have the capacity to hold that too. It's just another movement through the nervous system that the mind is interpreting as blissful, ecstatic rapture, right? Or Shakti that feels too much. It's exactly the same as the mind saying, oh, this stress and this misery feels too much, right? The story's different. The way of handling it in the story is different. But you're none of the experience. You're that which is holding it all. You're always bigger. You're always vaster. You're always untouched. And your knowing knows this. So we're inviting an allegiance with the knowing that whatever is happening, your vastness is holding it always. And the vastness is your true nature. It's eternal. It's timeless. It's infinite, unbounded. It's not disturbed in any way. And we're inviting an allegiance so deeply with your own nature that you fall in and in and in and in. And as you fall in and in and in, the intelligence of your nature, the wisdom, it starts to reveal its mechanics. It starts to reveal how this whole orchestration is just an appearance. It's a dream. It's a dream made of love, a dream made of God, a dream made of light. God isn't sitting over there saying, oh, I'm God and I'm just having a really great time being God here. And I don't, all of that stuff over there in the human realm, nothing to do with me. That's all their business, right? They can just burn over there. God isn't keeping anything separate from God. God just is, right? God isn't a presence that is separate in any way. God is all of this. God is all of it. And God is to the appearance, right? What we would say is that the appearance isn't reality. So as these words come, as always, feel where you feel like the blinkers come off and the lights are on, right? Feel the resonance, because you're not going to understand it with your mind, but you are going to understand it in the depths of your knowing, right? There is no separation. Also, too, another idea that the mind has is because of this deep feeling of being rejected or abandoned by God, which is separation, right? Separation can have many ways of the feeling having been felt in the nervous system through the life, having been abandoned, having been rejected, having been cut off. It's all separation from your own goodness, from divine love, right? Unlovable, unworthiness, all of the ways. But in truth, of course, there's only one, and your knowing of your own presence brings you to this. It brings you to this immediately. Because there's all this learned stuff in the way, it's like that learned stuff, the jungle, the Maya, keeps pulling the attention. And the appearance is very, very believable, right? If it wasn't believable, it wouldn't be able to create the illusion. But the illusion is part of God's grace, all of it, all of it. When we really come down to the deep questions where the mind might want to say, why did God do this to me? Why is God doing this to humans? This is not a kind God. This is not a loving God, right? And we can gather together in that story if we want to. But if that kind of story comes forward, that's a clue to your deepest internal dynamic around separation. If your story is, this is not a kind God, it's because you feel separate from God. It's not because God cut you off, right? So, again, feel what's being spoken. Feel that in the resonance there could be a dawning God has not cut off anything from God, because God is one. Divinity is one. And it's all there is. All there is. Wholeness. We can use the word wholeness. It's exactly the same. Whatever brings a resonance. We don't need to interpret words or feel excluded by words. It's all the same. God, divinity, divine love, truth, right? Mother, all the same, all the same. Wholeness, the Supreme Lord, right? What we're trying to uncover, what we're uncovering is where there is any sense of separation, there's some kind of story in there that you are not good and that you have been separated, you have been left out, you have been rejected, right? What Jesus knew is that was not true, right? What any saintly or sagely being knows is that that is not true, right? The Buddha, right? Doesn't matter, again, doesn't matter who. They're all symbols. They're all symbols for your own true nature, your own God nature, let's say, your own nature as divine love, your own nature as the mother, right? Or it's only yourself that you feel separate from. The self, right? That's another word we could use. So as these words come, the resonance, just to feel where there's a dawning, we're looking to uncover what is that deep story, what is that deep sense. So where that story could arise, that is not a kind God that would create this suffering for humans. In this moment, all that you know is your knowing. Your knowing is awareness that's aware of the story. If you believe in the story, you're going to feel miserable and abandoned. You're going to make an allegiance with your story of rejection and abandonment. You're making an allegiance with that which is unconscious, but is trying to surface, right? If instead you make an allegiance in the knowing, in the oneness with your nervous system, with your alive consciousness that's presenting what we could call challenge or discomfort, if you make an allegiance by meeting your feelings, feeling your feelings, if you make an allegiance with all of yourself openly, if you feel what is happening when the mind says, this is not a kind God, who would create this? Who would make humans suffer like this? If you actually just meet what is happening in your nervous system, and you're in the knowing, the knowing, you can feel the feelings, right? You're in your own deep experience of your own consciousness as it's unraveling. Feeling the feelings is being deep in your own consciousness as it's unraveling discordant patterns. See, it doesn't matter the story. If you're closer to the surface and you're identifying with the story, let's change the story. Why is this happening in my health? Why am I having to deal with this incredibly big health issue? Why is there someone in my family having to deal with a health issue that's bringing forward these feelings? Okay? Why has my beloved pet left its body and I'm feeling this, right? Doesn't matter. All of it is a possibility to leave yourself. Why is my partner left, right? Doesn't matter. Why anything, anything, it starts to branch out. Anything, every story is all included. But what we're doing from like the whole field of possibility where we're sucking it in, we're pulling it in, we're pulling it in. Let's say our work is to just be within our internal process, with our picture, our movie. First thing, do not bother to engage yourself with what is happening for anyone else. Massive distraction. They need to learn this, they need to change, they need to see this. Forget it. Give it up. Let it go. Total distraction. Your internal process is the only thing that you need to be absolutely in allegiance to. But let's get really clear here. On the surface, we think that the process we have to be in allegiance to is analyzing ourselves, right? It's the therapeutic process. It's the way of self-improvement, of processing through the mind, through the psyche, right? That's the surface way of dealing with it. And it might have served us at times in the life, and there might be subtle ways that it can still serve us. But if we get distracted on the surface of life, therapy, counseling, all of this, thinking that we need to understand the me, it's going to lead to a dead end at some point. It will. So we come deeper, we pull in those threads, we pull in the threads. We're refining the threads because we recognize in the being the only way to freedom is freedom from the mind, right? Freedom from the mind is to relax the attention away from the story and to receive what is unconscious more deeply than that. Okay, there can be a time in the life where there's trauma playing and we need support in that surface system, right? So for the beings that receive support in that way or offer support in that way, there's grace in it. It's not denying that. But so where a being doesn't have the maturity to feel, because there's trauma, because there's stuff in the way, that surface layer can be of benefit. Ultimately, we want to come to the being. We want to come to our own presence. Every being has the capacity for this. Some beings, because of trauma, because of certain storylines, will keep getting pulled, And that's where that surface layer of support will help release. It's kindness. But when we know the being, even that layer of support will be more smooth and flowing in its unraveling. Where the grace really starts to happen, and let's say this is where there is a maturity. So a maturity is not something for the mind to take and say, oh, I need to be more mature. It's not like a little person, right? You know, when we're young and we want to be mature like a grown-up. It's not that mechanism. Although when we hear the word maturity, that mechanism might kick in. I want to be mature. I want to be, right? It's that a me. I want to be mature. What we come to recognize in truth is that we cannot force the maturing. The maturing is the soul evolution, and it's beyond any way that we can affect that, except when we come to being. We can support the maturing in being, because what we're maturing is the readiness of consciousness, the clearing of consciousness, the refinement of consciousness. This is where we can support the maturing, but it's not a maturing that has any impact on the ego, of course. So what we're speaking of, and what, let's say, is the realm of satsang, the other parts are not really the realm of satsang. There's other ways that those are happening in each being's picture. The realm of satsang is to come to the being, to know your true nature, to lead the mind away from distraction, away from content, to the heart, to the emptiness, to the spaciousness of its true nature, to come to the openness, to come to the presence. to know yourself here, to know the simplicity of your own presence, to recognize the awareness. And then satsang, holding the company of truth, allegiance with truth, allegiance with your God nature. It is here in the light of the divine, the holding of unconditional love, that we receive and we meet everything that is attempting to surface. Not with a story. We're meeting everything in the light that is honest and open and free, where there is no judgment, where there is no opinion, and there is a constant pointing each other to holding the allegiance, holding the collaboration with your own true nature. Here we mature, here we deepen, here we allow the human dynamics to surface, but we take full responsibility as consciousness with love, with gratitude, with openness. We receive it all and we transmute it, right? Transmutation is true healing, it's true transformation. We're not trying to heal in a surface way that is putting a band-aid on, right? We're not trying to make a better me. We're transmuting through coming deep into the realms of consciousness. Coming to know the wholeness that we already are. And our knowing is the preciousness of our infinite eternal nature. Just to feel here now, the felt sense of presence, the being, the knowing, the awareness, whatever word, just to feel that you're here. You know you are here just because you are. There's a knowing here. There's a knowing where there's a resonance of truth. And this knowing is the being. This knowing is the awake field. And this knowing is all you ever know. So find out, do you really know anything other than your knowing? This is pure knowledge. It's the knowing of your own nature. It's where mind and heart are one in a knowing that is pure. It's not a step away into the mind's beliefs or ideas or concepts. No, that collapses into pure knowing. We could say, how do you know a belief is there? How do you know some information that you have learned is there? You only know it's there by the light of pure knowing. You only know it's there by the light of awareness. And the awareness is your true nature. So feel the dawning of remembering even more deeply in the resonance. There's nothing here but knowing, nothing here but the being. Nothing here. Let's say you are a screen. You are a screen. Images come on the screen, but as the screen, you're never ever changed or touched by the images. You are the screen as the awareness, as the aware being. The images that come are the play of your life, the play of the whole world. Because there is the collective and it's all created out of one, you can get together and have conversations and find that other beings are seeing similar images. But so let's say in a way, in essence, it's the same, But there will always be subtle nuances, right? Your wholeness is the light that illuminates the screen and creates the appearance of the images. That light, right? The light, if there was no light, the images would not be projected as the life, right? The light is the wholeness. The light is by virtue of which everything is happening. It's by virtue of which the Maya, the illusion, seems to be here, and it is by virtue of which everything gets freed. The light shining upon it all. How do you know the light is here? It is the light of your knowing. It's the light by which you see. It's the true perspective. It's the true perspective. The big picture, the zoomed out picture. So this moment now, it offers so much possibility when it is met as the openness, as the moment, as the wide open infinite being. Be with the knowing. Be with the knowing and allow everything to refine, everything that is unconscious, that is attempting to surface. Allow it to surface. Allow it to surface fully. It's coming forward in perfect timing because there is a readiness. And in the allowing it to surface, you're aligning. In the allowing, you're aligning with divine nature. In recognizing that, how is this created out of me? How have I created this? Or just to say I have, somehow. This is my own consciousness. It's to align with divine responsibility. To align with divine responsibility is to recognize the oneness. That you're not choosing it, you're not doing it, but you are welcoming it. That it's a divine orchestration. It's letting go of taking it personally, and it's a letting go of taking control. And saying yes, yes to the divine unfolding. Receiving, holding loving presence, and seeing that the whole process is like a mechanical process of consciousness. It's all just happening. None of it's personal. None of it's happening to you. You are never a victim of it. You are in service. We are in service. This is the work that we are here to do. This is the work that we are here for. To free all that is unconscious. Because as we transmute all that is unconscious, it affects the collective consciousness, right? We have our unique assignments. But as we pull the tendrils of our unconscious out of the collective, we're uplifting, we're shifting the collective, right? Our responsibility is to pull the tendrils of our own unconscious back, transmute it in service. And the picture keeps changing. The picture keeps changing. And the more that the unconscious is brought home to consciousness, brought to the light, brought into the love, then those are not the dynamics that are running your life. Those are not the dynamics that are creating distraction and pulling you away from the love and the freedom that is longed for. It's all working as one. And the one is content, is happy, blissful being. You are that blissful being in truth. And everything is conspiring for that to be lived right on the surface of life.